Welcome to White Shadows. On this Christmas day, I bring you eerie holiday tales. So, turn on the lights and clutch your pillow tight. So here goes the first tale. The Christmas Eve House Invasion. On Christmas Eve 1959, a small family in a sleepy town in the Midwest was about to experience a nightmarish event that would forever change their perception of the holidays. The family consisted of a mother, father, and their two young children. It was a quiet, peaceful evening. The snow was falling outside, and the house was adorned with Christmas lights and decorations. The fire crackled in the living room fireplace, and the children were excited for the arrival of Santa Claus. The family was preparing for their traditional Christmas Eve dinner when they heard an unsettling sound. Faint knocks at the door. The parents assumed it was a neighbor, possibly dropping by to exchange holiday greetings. But when the father answered, no one was there. He figured it was just a trick of the wind or maybe a child's prank. But as he closed the door, a strange chill ran down his spine. Something didn't feel right. The neighborhood was unusually quiet. No cars, no sounds of people enjoying the holiday. It felt like they were completely isolated. Around midnight, after the kids had gone to bed, the father went to check the perimeter of the house. The windows were all locked, the doors were secure, and yet there was an undeniable feeling of being watched. He returned to the living room, sat down beside his wife, and tried to brush it off as overactive imagination. But then, suddenly, there was a loud thud from upstairs, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps walking across the floorboards. Terrified, the father rushed upstairs, his heart pounding in his chest. The children's bedroom was dark, but everything seemed to be in place. The door to the attic, however, was slightly ajar, something they never left open. He felt a rush of panic surge through him, and without thinking, he grabbed a baseball bat from the corner of the hallway. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice shaky but firm. There was no answer, only a faint creak from above. The father climbed into the attic, each step heavier than the last, the air growing colder the further he went. The attic was dimly lit, and as he turned the corner, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A figure stood at the far end of the attic, dressed in tattered clothes, with wild, unkempt hair and a face obscured by shadows. The man, or whatever it was holding something, an object that looked like a rusty old knife. The father froze, trying to comprehend what he was seeing, when the figure suddenly lunged at him. With a surge of adrenaline, he swung the bat, hitting the intruder squarely in the chest. The figure stumbled back but did not fall. Instead, it let out a low, guttural laugh that made the father's skin crawl. Terrified, the father backed away, tripping over an old box and tumbling down the attic stairs. He rushed to the kitchen and grabbed a knife of his own. But when he turned back to face the attic, the intruder was gone. The house was eerily silent again, but the father could feel the presence of something watching him. He went to check on his children, who were thankfully still sound asleep, but the fear didn't subside. Over the next few days, they discovered strange things. Furniture moved, drawers slightly ajar, and a series of bizarre symbols scratched into the walls of the attic. They never found out who the intruder was, nor did they ever feel safe in that house again. Eventually, the family moved, unable to shake the feeling of being hunted. The house, still standing today, has been abandoned several times, with numerous reports of strange occurrences and sightings. Some say they hear the same footsteps at night, and sometimes even see the shadow of a man peering through the attic window. No one has lived there for long enough to uncover the full story, and the house remains a chilling reminder of the terror that took place one cold Christmas Eve. Hope you are not that scared. The next tale is called The Ghost of Christmas Past, a haunting in the hotel. In the 1980s, there was a particularly eerie Christmas haunting in a historic hotel in a small town in New England. The hotel, built in the early 1800s, had always been a charming place for guests to stay, especially around the holidays. The owners had restored it meticulously, preserving its vintage character, and the lobby was always adorned with elaborate Christmas decorations. But one particular Christmas season, a series of chilling events began to unfold that left both the guests and staff terrified. It started with a family of 4 who had booked a suite on the second floor of the hotel. They were an ordinary family, traveling to spend the holidays together. But from the moment they entered their room, things felt off. The air in the room was unusually cold, despite the radiator working properly. But it wasn't the temperature that disturbed them. It was the overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to linger in the air. It felt like someone or something was watching them. The first strange occurrence happened later that night. The family was getting ready for bed when they heard faint, soft footsteps echoing from the hallway. Thinking it was other guests, they ignored it. But the footsteps seemed to linger outside their door, pacing back and forth. The parents called out, but no one responded. The sounds eventually stopped, but the unease remained. As the family tried to sleep, they heard another unsettling noise, a loud bang, followed by the sound of something heavy scraping against the floor. The father got out of bed to investigate, but found nothing. He checked the windows, the furniture, and even the bathroom, but everything was normal. Yet a strange feeling of being watched persisted. The next morning, the family spoke to the hotel manager about the noises. The manager, an older man who had worked at the hotel for many years, seemed hesitant to acknowledge any strange events. However, he did mention that there had been rumors about the hotel being haunted, especially during the Christmas season. Some of the staff claimed to have seen a woman dressed in a vintage Christmas gown walking through the halls late at night. But when they approached her, she vanished. Curious, the family decided to spend the night in the same room, hoping to get to the bottom of the mystery. That evening, the family enjoyed a festive dinner in the hotel's restaurant. When they returned to their suite later that night, they noticed that the lights flickered intermittently, and the room felt colder than before. Around midnight, the children woke up screaming in terror. The parents rushed to their side, but the children were pointing to the corner of the room, where there was an old-fashioned rocking chair. The chair, which had been stationary just moments before, was now rocking back and forth on its own. As the parents approached the chair, the air grew colder, and they saw a faint, misty figure of a woman, dressed in a flowing white gown, standing in the corner. She had a sad, hollow expression on her face and was staring directly at the family. Before they could react, the ghostly figure vanished, leaving behind an intense feeling of grief and sorrow in the room. The children, who had been in a state of shock, could barely speak. The parents, also terrified, immediately packed their things and demanded to leave. The hotel manager, who was now visibly distressed, apologized and promised to investigate the situation further. It wasn't until after the family left that the hotel manager spoke more openly about the hotel's grim history. He revealed that the hotel had been the site of a tragic event many years prior. On Christmas Eve in the late 1800s, a woman named Eleanor had been staying at the hotel with her husband. After a bitter argument, her husband left her alone in their room. She was found dead the next morning, a victim of what appeared to be a self-inflicted injury. Some believed Eleanor had been overcome with grief from her husband's abandonment during the holiday season. Others claimed she was a victim of foul play. The most disturbing part of the story, however, was that Eleanor's death was never fully explained, and there were rumors that she still haunted the hotel, particularly around Christmas, her tragic time of year. Guests who stayed in room 204, the same room the family had occupied, often reported seeing her apparition, sometimes with a forlorn look on her face, sometimes appearing to weep as if mourning her lost love. Despite the eerie happenings, the hotel continued to operate, with many guests unaware of the building's dark past. But after that Christmas season, room 204 was left empty for years, and eventually, the hotel was closed for a long period due to financial troubles. To this day, rumors circulate about sightings of a sorrowful woman in a vintage gown wandering the halls of the hotel, especially on Christmas Eve. The hotel was eventually sold and renovated, but the locals still speak of the ghostly presence that lingers within its walls. Some even say that if you listen closely on Christmas Eve, you can hear the soft sound of a woman sobbing in the distance, her voice echoing through the old hotel, as though she never quite left.